I would say yes. It's the kind of environment that has changed significantly in terms of the sentiment that people have towards fundamentals. Because when you look at the numbers, the reality of the market or the reality of the economic situation hasn't changed in 1 month. In September, people were avoiding to see that there was some trouble ahead, and now people have the sentiment that things have changed dramatically, which, to my point of view, is a bit excessive.
Even here in Switzerland?
Yes, in Switzerland, there is no reason. I think the Swiss economy is going quite well. We have solid fundamentals. The economic activity has surprised on the upside. We all know that the Swiss franc was expected to be a threat for the equity market. At the end of the day, companies have been able to deliver results that were quite satisfactory. So I think that in Switzerland, there is no reason to think that it's different from the other region of the world.
Okay, so where does this leave investors? Where is money to be made?
I would say that you need to be more selective. I heard some people talking about the fact that we just have something happening in technology and that it's just a pause and etc. I think that we need to observe that more carefully. And we need to be conscious that over the last few quarters, technology played a significant role in pushing the market higher. It seems that people are maybe reassessing the ability of those companies to provide us with the kind of growth that people were expecting. So I think that maybe you should look at a segment of the market that were not very liked in the course of the last few months. I think that financial stocks could be interesting. The UBS of the kind, they delivered solid results last week. And I think that, for example, this is on the financial side that you could look. And also, I would we had made the choice earlier this year to stick with defensives. And we believe that pharmaceutical and the company like Nestlé could be attractive in a portfolio where you want to manage risk.
Well, you mentioned defensive, but just before the break, we heard from Dan Scott from Vontobel, who said actually nowadays tech is a defensive stock. Would you agree with that?
Partially. You know, it's also a very long duration stock. It's stocks that have a very I would say that are subject to a lot of effect of rising interest rates, considering that the expectation for growth are going to last for quite a long period of time. So when you need to adjust those expectations for growth through higher interest rates, I think that you have an effect that impacts those companies. Yes, you cannot look at them the way we were looking at them in the year 2000, but nevertheless, they remain subject to the risk of rising interest rates. And I think that there is something that is sure in the course of the last few months. People now believe that we have entered a different phase in terms of monetary policy. From quantitative easing and liquidity injection, we are in a system where we are taking back liquidity, and this is going to last for the few quarters. So it will have an impact in terms of volatility, and people will need to be convinced that the fact that the Fed and other central banks are conducting less restrictive monetary policy is not going to impact significantly growth, and especially earning growth in the medium term. And this is something that will be key over the coming months. Volatility is going to stay with us.
Do you think Sergio Ermotti from UBS was right over the weekend to say that, in fact, this kind of central bank policy was actually very damaging to markets at the moment and to the economy?
I was very surprised by those kind of declaration. You know, I read also an article by Mrs. Yellen in the Financial Times over the weekend, and I think it was very interesting. Don't judge monetary policy and the conduct of monetary policy of the last few years too early. You know, we are living in a world where we are still facing consequences of 2008, 2009. We have now moved from one phase to the other in terms of monetary policy. You need to judge monetary policy in the medium to long run. I think that it was not, to my point of view, very wise from the CEO of UBS to speak so publicly about this issue. I think this is not the role of somebody of a major bank in Switzerland to discuss the issue of monetary policy, to my point of view.
OK, we've got a few minutes remaining, Mr. Savary, so I just wanted to kind of have a look ahead to what's happening this week here in Switzerland. We've got results from Clariant, Swisscom and Credit Suisse. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that it will be very interesting to see if Credit Suisse is able to deliver the same kind of results that UBS has been able to provide the market with last week. I would also take a look at what is going to happen with Straumann. I think it's a company that was a kind of a very loved company by investors in the course of the last few years. It will be interesting to see if this company is still maintaining or showing the ability to give very, very solid result down the road. I think that from Swisscom there is nothing significant to be expected, and neither from Clarion. I don't think that there will be any surprise from Clarion. I think that it will be very, very interesting to focus on Credit Suisse and the ability of this company to move forward and to restructure and give results that are in line with expectation or above expectation.
Okay, and just on Clarion, you say there's nothing much to watch out for, but certainly we heard over the weekend from their CEO about some of the challenges of working in Saudi Arabia, obviously their parent company there.
Yes, true. That's something that is. But will it be seen immediately in the numbers or in the current numbers? I'm not sure. It will be interesting maybe to see what they see in details about why it is so difficult, and they need to express themselves in this case because it would be an issue maybe in the medium term.
Okay, and just with regard to Swisscom, I mean, is 5G, how is that impacting their business? I mean, and they're obviously facing a lot of challenges with their customer base as well.
Yes, everybody in this field is facing a lot of challenges. I think that this is one of the reasons, for example, Telecom is not especially a sector that we tend to like in our investment. And we believe that for the time being, those are not the kind, especially in a rising interest rate environment, this is not necessarily the kind of stocks you want to be invested in, considering that also those companies have some debts. So those are not necessarily the best condition to consider investment in those stocks for the coming quarters.